This is the Assassin stream. This is going to be the Assassin videos. They'll be up on YouTube very shortly after the stream, hopefully. And this is not only how to play Assassins, but also how to play against them. This video is going to focus not only on the beginner aspect of things, how to get introduced into Assassins, but it should also be really useful for the more advanced players. I'm going to be covering things specifically that I didn't know, or things that I think a lot of the League community doesn't know about these champions. We'll be going over every single champion in detail, going over their abilities, all that stuff. We've got information on how they do in pro play, how they do in solo queue. We'll be talking a little bit about their lore for each one of the champions. We'll be talking about their power spikes, what's their common runes and build paths, all of that stuff. We won't go into a lot of like really in-depth like combos or things like that. There are plenty of great players out there who have very detailed combo guides, and I definitely want to point you towards those people because they are far better at those champions than I am. I'm going to focus on things more from an analytical perspective and from a numbers perspective, and also from a details perspective, so you guys can learn the details about these champions that a lot of people don't know. Let's move on to the mobility assassins. So mobility assassins, we got Kassadin, Katarina, Kiana, and Talon. Alright, let's talk about Talon. Talon's the last one we're going to talk about. So Talon was released in 2011, reworked in 2016 when they did the big rework on most of the assassins. He had a moderate presence in pro play in 2017 and 2018. Was not seen that much in 2019. He is a freaking solo queue terror. He has the highest first blood rate in the game. He is just terrifying. Level 2 all-ins are all over the place, but he gets first bloods more than any other champion in the game. His win rate has been well above 50% for years. He has not been nerfed too much or anything. He's just kind of there, always with a decent win rate. And he also has a relatively low skill floor. So a lot of people like to make jokes that he's like an easier version of Zed, which is true. I'd say that his skill floor is way lower than Zed. But Talon he is kind of niche in that he's more of a push and roam style of assassin, while Zed is more of like the 1v1 assassin. Talon does have 1v1 potential, but I do think that Talon is better utilized as a push and roam assassin. So as far as his backstory, his lore, he has no family to speak of. It says that he never had a loving mother or father or anything like that. He basically grew up on the streets. He basically started making a name for himself because he was talented with a blade. And the Assassin's Guild demanded that he either join them or die. And pretty much every single assassin they sent to kill him, he killed that assassin. So he was like really talented. Eventually, they sent an assassin that actually bested Talon, and it turned out to be General du Couture, which is Katarina's father, so like the head assassin in Noxus. So Talon actually gained a lot of respect for Katarina's father because he was able to beat Talon in combat, and because of that, Talon does serve Katarina's father. And I believe the way the lore is now is that Katarina's father has gone missing, so there's a little bit of a power vacuum among the Assassin's Guild, and it's unclear whether Katarina or Talon will kind of take over the mantle of being in charge of the Assassin's Guild within Noxus. So, how is Talon in game? He has a terrifying early game. Like, we've already talked about it, I really want to emphasize that his kill pressure is level 2. He can all-in you very easily, especially if he stacks up his passive. He has really good wave clear with his W. He is basically the premier roaming assassin from my perspective. He is just fantastic at pushing, roaming. He can get to other lanes way faster than other assassins can, thanks to his E. He does fall off late game. He falls off really hardcore late game, so you have to be very careful. You're really reliant upon winning lane and extending your lead to those other lanes in order to be successful on Talon. One of the main reasons why he falls off late game is he only has his 2 combat abilities. His Q and his W are combat abilities, and obviously his ultimate. So once he maxes out his Q and his W, then the only thing he has left to max is his E, and his E doesn't increase his combat prowess at all. It doesn't increase his damage at all. It's more of a utility and mobility ability. So he kind of starts losing. He's at his height of his power once his Q and W are maxed, and then once he starts maxing E, he doesn't gain any more power. All right, so Talon's passive is called Blade's End. So this ability, basically, it's a 3-stack passive. That's the best way to put it. So anytime one of Talon's abilities hit a target, it puts a stack on them. And when a target reaches 3 stacks, the next basic attack the Talon does on them consumes the stacks and causes a massive bleed of damage over 2 seconds. And the bleed damage is ridiculous. The bleed damage is 700 to 245 based on the level, plus 200% bonus AD. So it's a massive, massive bleed. This is how he wins a lot of these early game trades, is because of this passive. So you have to be extremely careful. The Talon does not get 3 stacks on you. If he does, he can kill you very easily. All right, Talon's Q is Noxian Diplomacy. It is a point and click. So it has 2 different versions. It basically has a melee range version and a range version. So if he's more than 170 units away from the target, he will dash up to 575 range to the target and deal physical damage. If he's less than 170 range from the target, he will not dash, but he will critically strike, and he will heal if he kills the target with his Q. The melee version is also an auto attack reset, so you can auto Q if you're in melee range with Talon. So that's another way that you can increase the DPS that Talon deals if he's already in melee range against the target. Talon's W is called Rake. So it's a 900 range AoE. So the cone, the angle is only about 22 degrees, and I know that sounds narrow, but it hits the entire wave pretty easily. And it deals the damage twice. So it deals the damage when it goes out, and it deals the damage when it comes back in again. The return damage is slightly higher than the outgoing damage, and also the return damage will slow the target for 1 second. So the slow is actually pretty significant. It's 40 to 60% for 1 second based on the rank and the ability. So it's pretty huge. It's a pretty huge slow. Each instance of the damage also acts as a stack of his passive. So the thing you have to be really worried about with Talon is if he hits you with both the outgoing damage and the incoming damage, he can immediately Q onto you and proc the passive. So you really have to try to avoid either the outgoing damage or the return damage. If you get hit with both, you are at serious risk of getting all in against him. The big thing with Talon's W is it gives him great wave clear. So when you combine Tiamat with this W, he just clears waves really, really fast. It allows him to really roam very quickly to other lanes when combined with his E. So his E is Assassin's Path. So this is Talon's parkour ability, as it's frequently called. It allows Talon to dash over terrain. The cooldown per piece of terrain ranges from 160 seconds to 60 seconds based on the rank in the ability. And typically you max this ability last, so typically it's around 160 seconds per terrain for most of the game. So why this ability is so good is it allows Talon to rotate between lanes or invade the jungler really easily. So especially in Season 10, when junglers have reduced experience, typically the solo laners are going to be a level or 2 above the jungler. So if Talon is able to get mid priority, you can invade the jungle and kill the jungler really easy. You're going to have at least 1 level advantage on him, potentially 2. So if you're a Talon main, you don't have to go to lanes always. You don't have to roam from lane to lane. You can just invade the jungler and kill the jungler. So it's actually really powerful if you get good at tracking the jungler and you're a Talon main. You can really make a jungler hate his life. So if you are a Talon player, I would highly recommend you learn jungle tracking, or you duo with a jungler who knows how to jungle track, and you basically just make the jungler's life hell over and over again and turn it into a 4v5. So Talon really has a push and roam play style. So he basically just pushes the wave and then uses his E to basically roam from lane to lane. All right, Talon's R is Shadow Assault. So what it does is when he activates it, it disperses a ring of blaze, deals damage on a large AoE. Obviously, it adds a mark of his passive. It gives Talon invisibility and bonus movement speed for 2.5 seconds. When the invisibility ends, the blades will converge to Talon's location, dealing damage to everyone they pass through again. The damage only is dealt once each time, though, so if you hit with like a bunch of blades, it doesn't like deal more damage. But it does give him ability to gain 2 stacks of his passive for the first and the convergence again. So this is really useful sometimes for engage, but also for escape. So you basically can hop over a wall, assassinate a squishy target, pop your ultimate, and then run away, or just reposition and then engage again. So yeah. But I would say that this ultimate, it doesn't have a huge amount of power. It doesn't deal a ton of damage. The damage is only 90 to 180, plus 100% of his bonus AD. So a lot of his punching power is in that passive. That's really what you want to be trying to activate as much as possible. But the ultimate does allow you to potentially get more of those passive procs off with the rest of his other abilities. So as far as abilities, so I did look it up, and it does seem like there are 2 possible ways you can go as far as skill orders with Talon. The first one would be R, W, Q, E. So you would max W first. I have seen that some people max Q first, but I've been looking at a lot of like the really high elo Talon mains. We're talking Diamond, Master, Grandmaster, Challenger, and the pro players. They go WQE pretty much like 95% of the time. I'm sure there's some Talon mains who can tell me why you would go QWE, but in general, I would recommend that you go WQE unless you really have a good reason to go to max Q first. Typically, you will always go Electrocute on Talon. You could go Dark Harvest if you're feeling really frisky, but in general, Electrocute's going to give you better results. Always want to go Flash and Ignite on Talon. Tiamat is a must-buy as fast as possible, so you can get more wave clear. You will pretty much always go Moby Boots unless you're really worried about, like, you really need like a Ninja Tabi or a Merc Treads, but you really want to try to go towards Mobility Boots as long as you can. Obviously, you want to stack some lethality items. You can build bruiser items if you already think you have enough damage. So if you're worried about, like if you're way far ahead and you're worried about getting shut down, you can go more towards like a Sterix Gauge or a Black Cleaver or something like that, or a GA or a QSS, Mercurial Scimitar, if there's a lot of CC. There's a lot of different other items you can go towards. You don't have to just go lethality if you already have the kill pressure, but you need to have enough lethality that you have the kill pressure. But yeah, Talon is super terrifying. He is a really, really strong early game champion. He has incredible roam potential. He falls off late game. So the big thing with Talon is just prevent him from getting fed early. Just try to stall him out. He's kind of similar to like Pantheon, at least the old Pantheon, where he's just a terrifying champion in the early game. But as long as you don't feed him, you will outscale him usually. Yes, Mouse, that is true. It's technically a 4-stack passive because you need the auto. But you can only get the stacks from abilities. That's something that's different from a lot of other champions. Is that only abilities stack the passive, but you need the auto to proc the passive. Oh, that's an interesting point. Using an auto or Q to get out of the invisibility causes the blades to converge on your target instead of yourself. I don't think it actually mentioned that in the wiki. That's interesting. Yeah, it says that when he emerges from invisibility. Oh no, you're right. You're absolutely right. At the very end it says, if you use a basic attack or Noxian Diplomacy, it will cause the blades to converge to his target instead. So thank you for that. That's actually really useful. Thank you for spotting that. That can make sense. If you're in a melee matchup, you would max Q over W. At the same time, like, I still feel like just max the W, get the safer harass and the better wave clear. Yeah, maybe if the dude's playing like super aggro, you go W max, or try Q max. Alright, that's some good, I like that. Thank you for mentioning that. So that gives a little bit of insight into why we go Q max versus W max. I still think W max is probably going to be more consistent. Q max more situational. But yeah, if the dude's getting really aggro on you and you think you're going to be trading a lot, you will get increased damage by going Q max. Cooldown doesn't go down that much if you go Q max. It's only half a second per rank. Base damage goes up by, looks like 25 per rank. Yeah, but on the W, it's no cooldown. So it's a fixed 9-second cooldown, and the damage goes up by 15. So damage goes up by 15, but if it hits with both, it's 30 damage per rank, as opposed to the 25. So technically, I don't know. It's close. Yeah, if I'm really gonna crunch the numbers on Talon, so you gain additional 25 damage per rank for each Q. If you do a rank of W, you gain 30 damage per rank if you hit with both the outgoing and the incoming. So the real advantage would be in the critical strike. So if you're proccing the melee range version way more often, then it's more advantageous. Okay, that makes sense. You have to be getting the melee crits. Alright guys, that's the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like, and also be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. If you feel like I missed anything essential on Talon, please leave a comment below. All I ask is that you be respectful. Hope you guys have a fantastic day. This is Randomonium, signing off.